Okay, here is your optional video if you need a little support remembering how to solve equations or how to do it in a more sophisticated way than writing out triangles. Here's your guiding video. I have at the top already my date, and I also made a modified worksheet title. Yours is called Reviewing the Basics. I did a modified one so that when it's time to hand it in, I can easily find it. So what I'm going to do is go down the left side for a few problems and give you some examples of the problems you'll see on here, giving you some guidance so you can try this on your own. I'm going to go as fast as I can so that you can get as many problems as possible into this video, and also so that you can see that it really is a quick process once you get good at it. Problem number 1, 4x plus 1 equals 2x minus 5 is a pretty basic reminder of our different principles that we're going to work with. So remember, we can add things to both sides, we can take things off of both sides, and that's two of the primary ways that we solve equations. I'm going to begin by boxing out my positive numbers, circling my negative numbers, okay, because that helps me see that those are not the same weight, or that those aren't things I can take off each side. The first thing that I notice is that on each side I've got some x's, and so because I can take things with weight off each side, I think I'm going to take 2 x's off each side, because when I do that, I will be at 2x plus 1 equals negative 5. I'll be a little bit closer to solving. I'll have eliminated some of the x's on one side. Okay, so now I've got 2x plus 1 equals negative 5. What I've got to do is try to figure out what the best way to get to an answer is. What it looks like is my x's are kind of hanging out on the left side here. What I'd like to do is have my 2 x's and then have a number over here so I can start to figure out what this x is worth here. So I'm going to focus my efforts on getting rid of this positive 1. Because I can't take a positive 1 off the left and a negative 1 off the right, I'm going to have to bring in something that will create a zero pair. So that means that I am going to be bringing in a negative 1. If I do that to the left, I have to do that to the right, so I'm just going to write it out right now. And what I've done then is created a zero pair. A positive 1 and a negative 1 cancel each other out. So I've done what I intended to do. I've gotten my 2x alone on the left side. Now I need to total up that I've got 5 negatives plus 1 negative, which gives me 6 negatives. And now I can see that if I've got 2 x's that are equal to negative 6, I can divide that negative 6 by 2. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3, which means each of my x's is worth negative 3. Okay, over here I already have my number 5 set up, so if you don't, you'll want to pause, or if you were working on the other problems in between. So I'm going to look at my number 5 the same way I looked at my number 1. I'm going to look at it as a mixture of r's and positive numbers and negative numbers. So I have a similar situation to last time. This time what I notice is I have 1 r over here on the left and I have 4 over here on the right. So when I take away r's, and I can take 1 r off of here, the bigger group of r's is on the right, so I'm going to end up with 3 r's over here. Sometimes that scares people because they're used to their r's on the left, but it's no big deal. We will be just fine. Okay? So now I'm sort of in the similar situation as last time. It's just that I'm dealing with my right side. I've got my 3 r's over here, and it really would be helpful if this negative 6 were gone, so I could figure out what 3 r's were worth over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to what I said before. I cannot take 6 negatives off the right and 15 positives off the left. These are not the same weight. So what I'm going to do is bring in something that will cancel out my -6, and that is, of course, a +6. And whatever I do to one side of the equation, I do to the other. Now what I've been able to do is cancel out my negative and positive 6's. I have 3r alone on the right-hand side. And now I've got to total up 6 plus 15, which is 21. I have my division problem. If 3 r's add up to 21, I need to do 21 divided by 3 to get the value of 1r. 1r is 7. And it doesn't matter if you say 7 equals r or r equals 7. Okay, this time I'm jumping to 9. We're going to do a couple different types of problems here. Number 9 has several of these repetitions that we used to do all the time. 8 times the quantity 2w minus 2 equals 7 times the quantity 3w plus 2. So that's a long one. I'm going to make my green line down the center, and now I need to start looking at what we used to call repetitions. So before, when we were doing triangles, some of us would take our 2w, make it into 2x, and we would repeat 2w or 2x's or 2 triangles 8 times over and then total up what we had. We need to move to a system that's a little quicker, more efficient. So what we need to be able to do, first of all, is know that's a -2. But then we also need to say, if I repeat 2w 8 times, I know how to count by 2's. I can count all the way up to 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and get up to 16 w's. That's what I would have. And this is a quicker way if we actually find out after a while that we're just multiplying this number times the number of w's. 8 times 2 is 16 w's. Now I've also got these 2 negatives over here, and I need to repeat those 8 times. So I think what's going to happen is I'm going to end up with -16, because once again, if I go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, that's how I can do a calculation. Now on the other side, I've got 7 repetitions of 3w. So 7 times 3 is 21. I would have 21 w's. Then I've got to do 7 repetitions of +2. That helps me. So 7 repetitions of +2 means I would have +14. And once again, I've got lots of variables, lots of w's, and I've got negative values on the left and positive values on the right. So I'm going to begin by taking my w's off of each side. I've got 16 w's on the left that I can take off. And I can also take 16 w's, 16 w's off the right. Okay, so that leaves me, if I take 16 off the left, I have no w's left. But on the right, I have 5 w's left over. I still have +14, or 14 positives. And then on the other side of the equation, I've got 16 negatives. So again, similar situation. We've got to figure out how to eliminate 14 positives. And because I can't take 14 positives off one side, I don't have any positives off this side to match. I'm going to have to bring something in. So I'm going to bring in 14 negatives. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. That's the rules to keep our equation in balance. Now I've created a 0 pair. I've still got 5 W's left over there, and I need to total up 14 plus 16, which gives me a total of 30 negatives. So if 5 W's give me negative 30, I need to do negative 30 divided by 5, which tells me that 1 W is negative 6. Okay, the last one and then I'm going to guide you through is number 11. I think most of these, once you get the translation correct and get rid of your parentheses, you should be on the right track. So let's just take a look at 11. We're not going to finish the whole thing together, but let's take a look at making sure our repetitions are accurate and getting rid of the parentheses. This is what number 11 looks like. And I'm going to still make my line down the center. So on the left, I'm looking at 6 repetitions of M, and then 6 repetitions of negative 1. So I'm going to circle that, make it negative 1. So 6 repetitions of M looks like 6M. That's the easiest thing to do. And then 6 repetitions of negative 1 would give me minus 6, which I will circle again to remind myself that's our negative numbers. Now on the right, I've got to do 3 repetitions of 3M. So that means I've already got 3 M's and I need to repeat that 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. I'm going to end up with 9 total M's once I repeat that 3 times. If it helps you to see it, you could make a side note for yourself. That multiplication, right, is just repeated adding. If we repeat 3M 3 times over, we have 3, 6, 9 M's, and that's how you can remind yourself. I made a shortcut, and I did 3 times 3 to get my 9. Now I've got to repeat 3 times over positive 5. So that's easy for me because I can count by 5s. 5, 10, 15. Okay. And now you've got an equation that's really similar to what we've done, so you can go ahead and keep solving. You can finish this and you can do the rest of the sheet in your notebook. Please make sure that you submit your work and all of your steps so I can take a look.